Hi everyone, welcome to my channel, Tomorrow Revenge, where you can witness the power of women. Please follow us to hear today's story. My name is Kelly Watson, and for the past 2 years, I've worked at Crestline Marketing in Chicago. It's a mid-sized firm with beige walls and the constant hum of printers. My sister, Sarah, is my direct supervisor. She's the one who got me the job. Today, she called me into her office, her face pale. "Close the door. Kelly." I did. The air felt thick. "I ran a deeper background check," she said, not meeting my eyes. "The one HR did was basic. I found it, the juvenile record, theft and assault. It was sealed, but I have a friend in the courthouse." My stomach dropped. That was a lifetime ago. A stupid kid's mistake. Expunged. "Sarah, why would you?" "I need you to do something for me," she cut in, her voice low. "The quarterly reports. My numbers are off. 50,000 off. If you help me adjust the ledgers, make it look like a system glitch. This stays between us." I stared at her. "My own sister. You're asking me to commit fraud." "I'm asking you to help your sister. You owe me." "Kelly, I kept you out of juvie, remember? I talked Mom and Dad out of pressing charges. This is nothing compared to what you did. That was 15 years ago. Sarah, I was a kid. I paid for it. This is different. This is your mistake." Her eyes hardened. "Then I guess Mr. Declan needs to know he hired a criminal." She did it. That afternoon, I was in the big boss's office. Declan Moore, a man with a handshake like a vice and eyes that missed nothing. "Sarah tells me you have a criminal record." "Kelly, that true?" he asked, leaning back in his leather chair. "It was a juvenile offense, sir. Sealed. It shouldn't have been accessible." "But it was," he said quietly. "This is a position of trust. We handle client funds. I'm disappointed in you and in Sarah for not disclosing this sooner." "She just found out," I said, the lie tasting bitter. "I'll need to think about this. Consult with legal. Don't discuss this with anyone." Dismissed. The walk back to my cubicle felt miles long. Sarah wouldn't look at me. The workday ended in a thick, silent dread. That night, at my apartment, the doorbell rang. 2 men in cheap suits stood there, holding up badges. "FBI, Kelly Watson, we'd like to talk." I let them in. The older one, grim-faced, stayed near the door. The younger one, maybe late 20s with close-cropped hair, looked around my living room and then grinned at me. "Nice place." "Commander," he said. The word hung in the air. "Commander." The older agent shot him a look. "Agent Hank, not now." He turned to me. "Miss Watson, I'm Agent Miller. We're aware of the situation at Crestline. Your sister's disclosure complicates Operation Ledger." My heart hammered against my ribs. "Operation what? Who are you people?" Hank's grin widened. "Come on, Commander, drop the act. The call sign's safe. We're your backup. Have been for 6 months." Agent Miller sighed, pinching the bridge of his nose. "Kelly Watson, you are a covert operative of the Federal Bureau of Investigation, embedded at Crestline Marketing to investigate its ties to the Velis money laundering network. Your juvenile record is part of your constructed cover. Your sister, Sarah Watson, was not supposed to unearth it. Her actions have created a significant anomaly." I just stared. The room tilted. "Covert operative. This had to be a joke. A sick, elaborate joke. My handler is Martin Grayson." I said slowly, the name and the protocol rising from a place in my mind I kept locked. It felt like reciting a line from a play I'd forgotten I'd memorized. "Assistant Director Grayson." "Yes." Miller confirmed. "He's been notified. Your cover is compromised with Declan Moore, but the primary target, Victor Cray, remains unaware. We need to decide on a contingency. Do we pull you, or do we use this?" "Use it," I whispered. Hank leaned forward, his playful demeanor gone, replaced by sharp intensity. "Yeah, a disgruntled employee with a shady past. About to be fired? That's exactly the kind of person Victor likes to recruit. This could be your in. A faster in than we'd planned." "But my sister is a complication," Miller stated flatly. "She's also potentially involved. Her financial discrepancies are part of a larger pattern we're tracking. You have a decision to make. Commander, do you maintain your cover with her, or do you bring her in?" The weight of it crushed down on me. The memories of the last 2 years, the boring reports, the office gossip, the feeling of running in place, now reframed as a meticulous performance. The fake identity felt more real than the truth they were telling me. I need to think." I managed. You have until 0800. Miller said, placing a card on my coffee table. It was blank except for a phone number. Call that. It's a secure line to Grayson. He'll brief you. They left as quietly as they came. I sank onto my couch, the silence roaring in my ears. Commander, my phone buzzed. A text from Sarah. I'm sorry. I was desperate. Can we talk? I looked at the blank card, then at my phone. 2 paths, 2 lives colliding. The sister I loved, who thought she was exposing a criminal, and the job I apparently had, where criminals called me commander. I picked up my phone. My fingers hovered over the screen. I texted Sarah back, not now, tomorrow. The lie tasted like ash, but it was the first move in a new, more dangerous game. The commander part of my brain, the part that had been dormant for 2 years under layers of fabricated normalcy, clicked online. It was cold, analytical, and ruthlessly focused on the objective. Sarah was now a variable, a high-risk, high-emotion variable. I couldn't bring her in. Not yet. The operation's integrity depended on my cover's fragility being authentic. If I told her the truth, her behavior toward me would change. Declan, and more importantly Victor Cray, would notice. I called the number on the blank card. It was picked up on the first ring. Authentication code, a flat, digital voice said, Nightingale 7 Tango. I recited. The words felt alien, but my voice was steady. A series of tones sounded. Then a familiar, gravelly voice came on the line. Commander, situation report. It was Assistant Director Martin Grayson, my handler, the man who, according to the file buried in my subconscious, had recruited me, the father figure I couldn't remember trusting. Cover is compromised with Declan Moore. Sister Sarah is the source. She attempted coercion related to her own financial discrepancies. I refused. She disclosed. Moore is considering his options. 2 agents, Miller and Hank, made contact. They propose leveraging the exposure to accelerate approach on primary target. Victor Cray, I concur. Request guidance on sister asset. The words came in a clipped, efficient stream. Commander was talking. Grayson was silent for a moment. Your assessment of sister's involvement? Unwitting at best, greedy and scared at worst. The 50K shortfall matches a pattern from the flagged transactions in the Velis network. She's a possible access point, but a volatile one. Recommend continued non-disclosure with enhanced surveillance. Approved. We'll tap her lines, monitor her movements. You maintain your persona with her. Angry, betrayed, desperate to keep your job. Let Declan's fear and greed work for us. He'll see your record as a lever. We'll feed him just enough to make him use it. Agent Hank will be your primary field liaison. He'll embed as a civilian. Use him. Understood. Commander, welcome back. The next move is yours. Don't hesitate. The line went dead. I spent the night not sleeping, but reassembling myself. Kelly Watson, the screw-up with a past, terrified of losing her second chance. And beneath her, the blueprint of Commander, the ghost in the machine. By dawn, they were fused, a woman playing a version of herself, which was itself a role. The office the next day was a minefield. Sarah was at my cubicle before I'd even logged in. Her eyes were red-rimmed. Kelly, please, let me talk to Declan. I'll tell him I overreacted, that I was wrong. I kept my voice low, shaking with a fury that was only half feigned. You were wrong. Sarah, you ruined my life for money. Again, just like you always do. The barb hit its mark. Our history was a tapestry of her rescues that always came with strings. Stay away from me, and stay away from Declan. You've done enough. I pushed past her, feeling her flinch. The performance was agony. Declan summoned me at noon. His office smelled of expensive coffee and anxiety. Kelly, I've thought about your situation. The legal department says we could terminate, but it's messy. The record was sealed. Opens us up to a lawsuit if you fought it. I looked at the floor, the picture of dejected shame. I understand. Sir, I'll clear my desk. I didn't say that, he said quickly. He steepled his fingers. You're a good worker. Quiet, efficient, and now I know you're motivated. Someone with your background understands how the world really works. There are opportunities here for someone who isn't afraid to get their hands a little dirty, for someone who needs a friend in management. I let a sliver of desperate hope show on my face. What do you mean? I mean, I'm willing to overlook this, even promote you, but loyalty is a two-way street. I have some special projects, sensitive client work. I need a discreet point person, someone who appreciates the value of discretion. His smile was thin. Think about it. We'll talk again tomorrow. Bingo. He was going to try and use me. It was the play Hank and Grayson had predicted. I left his office, the dutiful, grateful employee. As I walked back, I accessed the hidden partition on my work computer, initiating a data siphon on Sarah's financial files and client logs. The program, undetectable by the company's IT, began copying everything. That evening, Hank showed up at my door with a six-pack of beer and a grin, dressed in jeans and a worn leather jacket. He looked like a different person from the tense FBI agent of the night before. "Hey, neighbor, just moved in across the hall. Thought I'd introduce myself," he said, loud enough for anyone in the hallway to hear. He stepped inside and dropped the act. "Clear. Nice place. Needs more weapons. Though, what's the play?" I asked, taking a beer. "I'm Hank Rourke, freelance IT security consultant. Your new, slightly clingy boyfriend who you met at a bar last weekend. It gives me a reason to be around, to be seen with you. It also gives us cover for comms." He handed me a small, stylish bracelet, micro-communicator, pressed the clasp twice to open a channel to me. 3 times for Grayson. It's also a tracker, in case you get kidnapped. Again. He shrugged. "Read your file." Paraguay was messy. A flash of jungle heat, the smell of cordite, a scream that wasn't mine. It was gone as fast as it came. A ghost memory. I pushed it down. "What about Sarah?" "We've got a tap on her phone, a tracker on her car. She's clean so far. Spent the afternoon at a coffee shop, crying into her laptop. She's trying to fix the books, but the hole's too deep. She's getting desperate. That makes her dangerous or useful." Over the next week, the double game accelerated. I played Hank's enthusiastic new girlfriend at a company happy hour, laughing too loud at his jokes, letting him hold my hand. Sarah watched from across the bar, her face a storm of confusion and hurt. I was supposed to be broken, not dating. Declan gave me my first special project, rerouting a series of international vendor payments through a new offshore account. The amounts were just below reporting thresholds. It was a classic layering technique. I did it flawlessly and sent a full report to Grayson through the bracelet. He instructed me to leave a tiny, deliberate flaw, a traceable IP signature that the FBI cyber team could enhance. We were laying breadcrumbs for Victor Cray to find, to prove I was both competent and slightly crooked. The trap was set, and Sarah walked right into it. It was Friday night. Hank was over, the sounds of a bad action movie providing cover noise. My encrypted laptop was syncing with the FBI servers when my personal phone buzzed. "Sarah." I almost didn't answer. "Kelly, you have to meet me. Now. It's important." "Sarah, I'm busy." "It's about your boyfriend," she hissed, her voice laced with a panic I'd never heard before. "And about the man Declan answers to. The ghost." The word was a bucket of ice water. The ghost was Victor Cray's operational alias in our files. Sarah wasn't supposed to know that name. "Where?" I asked, my commander voice flat. "The docks. Warehouse 14. The old Miller place. Come alone." "And Kelly, I'm scared." The line went dead. I looked at Hank. He'd already heard everything through my bracelet mic. "It's a trap, or she's legitimately lost her mind," he said, already grabbing his gear from a hidden panel in my hallway closet. A compact handgun, extra mags, a Kevlar vest he threw on under his jacket. "We go in hot. I'll be your shadow. If it's clean, I stay hidden. If it's not," he didn't finish. He handed me a small, cold pistol. "You remember how to use this?" The weight was familiar, comforting. "Yes." "Then let's go meet the ghost." The docks at night were a labyrinth of shadows and rust. Warehouse 14 was a decaying hulk. I told Hank to take a position on the gantry above and moved inside alone, my heart a drum in my throat. Sarah stood in a pool of faint light from a single, hanging bulb. She looked shattered. "You shouldn't have come," she whispered. "You said the ghost." "I've seen him. Here, with Declan. Twice. A tall man. Eastern European. Cold eyes. He's the one who told Declan how to hide the money. My money. The company's money. All of it. She was trembling. Last week, when I was trying to fix my mess, I accessed a server I shouldn't have. I saw a folder. It had your name on it, Kelly, and pictures, surveillance pictures, of you, of him. She pointed a shaking finger into the darkness behind me. I turned. Victor Cray stepped from the shadows, followed by two large men. He was exactly as described, tall, gaunt, with silver hair and eyes the color of a winter sea. He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. Kelly Watson, or should I call you Commander? Such a dramatic title for such a little mouse. My blood ran cold. How? Sarah gasped. What is he talking about? Your sister has been a very busy girl, Sarah, Cray said, his voice smooth. Playing spy in my backyard. Declan was a fool, but useful. He brought you right to me. Your record was almost too perfect. A gift, and gifts from enemies always have strings. He nodded to one of his men, who grabbed Sarah, clamping a hand over her mouth. Let her go, I said, my hand inching toward my pocket where the gun was hidden. Cray tooted. I know your friend is up there. He looked up at the gantry. Hank, is it? You can come down, or I can have my associate put a bullet in Sarah's knee. Your choice. A moment of tense silence. Then Hank's voice echoed. All right, don't hurt her. He emerged from the shadows, hands raised, his own weapon held loosely. He came down the metal stairs, his eyes locked on mine, a silent apology there. How? I asked Cray. The question meant for him, for Hank, for the universe. Your FBI has a leak, Commander, a generous one. I've known about you for weeks. I was just waiting for you to get close enough to be useful, or to remove. He looked between Hank and me. But this is interesting. The sister, an unforeseen variable full of emotion. It makes for a better test. Test? Sarah mumbled against the thug's hand. Of loyalty. Cray said, you, Commander, wish to prove you are not a cop. You wish to continue your career in my organization? Kill this FBI agent for me, right now. The warehouse air froze. Hank stared at me, his face unreadable. Sarah's eyes were wide with terror and dawning. Horrific understanding. Kelly, no, she choked out. Cray's man shoved a heavy pistol into my hand. It was cold, monstrously real. I looked at Hank, my field liaison, the man who'd called me Commander, with a grin. I saw no fear in his eyes, just a sharp, focused intensity, and a slight, almost imperceptible nod. It was the signal, a gambit within a gambit. Grayson's voice echoed in my head. The next move is yours. Don't hesitate. This was the move, the only move. I raised the gun, my arm steady, my commander mind utterly calm. I aimed at Hank's center mass. I'm sorry, I whispered, and I pulled the trigger. The gunshot was a thunderclap in the hollow warehouse. The recoil jolted up my arm. Hank's body jerked backward, a stunningly realistic blossom of crimson exploding on the front of his white shirt. He crumpled to the concrete floor with a sickening final thud, his eyes wide with shock before fluttering closed. A perfect shot, a perfect performance. Silence, thick and choking, followed the echo. Sarah's scream was muffled against the thug's hand, her whole body convulsing in terror. I kept the gun raised, smoke curling from the barrel, my face a mask of cold resolve. Inside, my stomach was a writhing knot. The blanks had been loaded with stage blood capsules. The squib under Hank's shirt remotely triggered by the pressure on the gun's modified trigger. I knew the mechanics. I'd rehearsed them in a dozen safe scenarios, but knowing and doing, while your fake boyfriend, your colleague, collapsed in a mockery of death before your sister. We're galaxies apart. Victor Cray watched, his winter sea eyes analyzing every micro-expression. He stared at Hank's motionless form, then at the blood pooling on the grimy concrete. He took a slow, deliberate step forward, his Italian loafers avoiding the spreading red. He knelt, pressing two fingers to Hank's neck. I held my breath. The pulse oximeter and skin cooling pad under Hank's collar were agency issue, undetectable to a casual check. But Cray wasn't casual. After a long 10 seconds, he stood, wiping his fingers fastidiously on a monogrammed handkerchief. A faint, approving smile touched his lips. A heart shot, efficient, not a trace of hesitation. He looked at me, a new, speculative light in his gaze. They said you were soft, that the civilian life had made you domesticated. They were wrong. The leak. The word was a cold stone in my gut, but I couldn't afford to think about it now. I lowered the gun, letting a sliver of adrenaline-induced tremor show in my hand. The job's the job, I said, my voice rough. He was a liability, an anchor. I glanced at Sarah, who was sobbing silently, her legs giving way. They both are. Cray followed my look. The sister is a mess, but she has uses. She accessed my server. She has seen my face. She is a problem with two solutions. He drew a finger across his throat. No. The word was out before I could filter it. Too fast, too emotional. I saw a flicker in Cray's eyes. I corrected, layering calculation over the outburst. She's my leverage with Declan. He trusts her, or he did. She's also terrified and pliable. Killing her is a waste of an asset. Let me handle her. Cray studied me, then Sarah, a predator weighing 2 morsels. You will be responsible for her, her actions, her silence. If she breathes a word, if she looks at me sideways, it will be your head beside hers on a platter. Do you understand, Commander? He infused the title with a mocking disdain. I understand. Good. Dispose of this, he said, nudging Hank's body with his foot. The river is deep here. Make it disappear. Your first task as a member of my organization. He turned to his men. Release her. Bring the sister to the secondary location. I will deal with Declan. The thug shoved Sarah forward. She stumbled, falling to her knees beside Hank's body, her hand reaching out, trembling, towards the fake blood. I grabbed her arm, yanking her up with a force that made her gasp. Don't touch him. I snarled, the persona of the ruthless killer firming around me, like armor. Get up. You're coming with me. I half-dragged, half-carried her out of the warehouse, leaving Cray's men to watch. The cold night air hit us like a slap. I shoved her into the passenger seat of my car. My own car, not some agency vehicle. This had to look real. Drive, north, now, I muttered, starting the engine. As we pulled away, I saw in the rear view the warehouse. Doors open. 2 of Cray's men carried a heavy, shapeless tarp bundle towards a waiting van. The body. The next phase of the op. For 5 minutes, we drove in silence, broken only by Sarah's ragged, hyperventilating breaths. When we were clear of the dock district, I pulled into the deserted parking lot of a shuttered big box store. Kelly, you killed him, she whimpered, shrinking against the door, looking at me as if I were a stranger. In that moment, I was, Sarah, listen to me, I said, my voice low and urgent, stripping the faux menace away. Hank is not dead. It was a setup. Fake blood, blanks, a staged performance. He's FBI, and so am I? She stared, her mind refusing to process. What? No. I saw the blood. He wasn't breathing. He's a trained operative. It was a trick, a very convincing trick to get me inside Cray's organization. The man back there, Victor Cray, is a major money launderer. The ghost. I've been undercover at Crestline for 2 years to get to him. The words tumbled out, a desperate, classified info dump. I needed her coherent, and I needed it now. The shock was too much. She just shook her head, a low moan escaping her lips. FBI, you're a cop all this time? And you let me think. The betrayal in her eyes was a fresh knife wound. You used me. You used my mess to get closer to him. Yes. I admitted, the truth brutal and simple. Your actions, while stupid and illegal, created an opportunity. We took it. I'm sorry, Sarah, for all of it, but right now, you are in unimaginable danger. Cray will kill you without a second thought if you step out of line. The only reason you're alive is because I convinced him you're more useful to him alive and under my thumb. Useful how? She spat, anger beginning to pierce the shock. To do more of his dirty books. To be my tether to reality, I said, the word surprising even me. To be the vulnerable, greedy, normal sister that makes Kelly Watson, the ex-con trying to climb the ladder, believable. You're part of my cover now. Sarah, a crucial part. And if you want to stay alive, and if you want any chance of digging yourself out of the $50,000 hole you created, you will do exactly what I say. When I say it, I laid it out coldly. The leverage, the threat, the faint glimmer of a way out. Cooperation with the FBI, immunity for her financial crimes, her eyes, wide and lost, finally focused on mine. The survival instinct, so strong in our family, kicked in. "What do I have to do?" she asked, her voice small but clear. "First, you go home. You act terrified. You don't talk to anyone. You wait for my instructions. Second, you give me everything you have on the server you accessed. Every file name, every transaction, every name you saw. Can you do that?" She nodded, a stiff, jerky motion. I took pictures with my phone before I got scared and ran. My heart leapt. That was gold. "Where is the phone?" "In my apartment, hidden." "Okay, we'll get it later. For now, you're in lockdown." I drove her to her apartment building, making her promise not to use her landline, not to answer the door, to act like a woman who'd just witnessed a murder. She was a good one. She looked the part. Back in my own apartment, the silence was deafening. The ghost of the gunshot seemed to hang in the air. I pressed the clasp on my bracelet twice. A hiss of static, then a voice, strained but alive. "Hank here. Nice shooting, Commander." The extraction was smooth. "I'm in the medical van. They're picking confetti out of my hair. How's the sister?" A relief so profound it weakened my knees, washed through me. "She's in. Shaken, but she's in. She has photos of Cray's server." "Good. That's our in with Grayson. He's not happy, but he's pragmatic. The opposite go. You're embedded. Cray's next move will be a test of skill, not just loyalty. Be ready." The leak. "Hank," Cray said they told him I was soft. He knew about me for weeks. A long pause. "We know. Grayson knows. It's being handled internally. Your only focus is Cray. Trust no one else. The protocol is Lone Star. You understand?" Lone Star. Complete radio silence, except for prearranged dead drop communications. Hank would be my only live contact, and even that would be minimal. I was on an island. "Understood. How's the cleanup?" "Convincing. The boys are dumping a weighted dummy dressed like me into the lake as we speak. Cray's watchers are on it. You're clear. Get some rest. Commander, tomorrow, the real work starts." The line went dead. The real work was a series of increasingly complex financial maneuvers under Cray's direction, relayed through a sullen and terrified Declan. I began moving larger sums through a daisy chain of shell companies. I was laundering money for arms dealers, drug cartels, and something Cray called the consortium's political projects. I was meticulous, creative, and utterly ruthless in my digital execution. I left just enough of a subtle, elegant digital fingerprint, a calling card for the FBI to follow, while making the transactions look flawless to Cray's auditors. A week after the warehouse, Cray summoned me to a high-rise condo overlooking the river. It was sleek, modern, and sterile. He offered me a drink I didn't touch. "Your work is impressive," he said, sipping a glass of vodka. "Precise. You have a mind for this, a mind wasted in marketing." "Marketing is just laundering perceptions," I said, leaning against the floor-to-ceiling window. "This is more direct, more profitable." He chuckled. "Indeed, I have a task, a physical one, a show of comprehensive trust." He slid a tablet across the glass coffee table. On it was a shipping manifest and a photo of a cargo container at the docks. "This container arrives tomorrow night. It is registered to a shell company you created last week. Inside are components. You will be there to receive it. You will oversee the transfer of the contents to a truck that will be provided. You will do this alone." A physical drop, a shift from digital ghost to boots-on-the-ground operative. It was the next logical step, but it was also a massive risk. Alone, I'd be vulnerable. If anything went wrong, I'd have no backup. Alone, I asked, keeping my tone neutral. "My men will be watching from a distance. Consider it a final exam. Commander, pass, and you will meet the people who truly matter. The Council." The Council, a new name, a higher tier. This was the intelligence Grayson was after. The board of directors for Cray's criminal empire. I nodded. "I'll handle it." The next night was rainy, a cold drizzle that made the dock shimmer under the orange sulfur lights. The container was where it was supposed to be. The truck, a nondescript moving van, arrived on time, using a stolen access key and the manifest codes. I opened the heavy doors. The interior was packed with wooden crates. I climbed in, using a crowbar to pry open one marked machine parts. Inside, nestled in packing foam, were a dozen brand-new, military-grade assault rifles. Not just components, final products. This was a weapons shipment. As I supervised the two burly, silent movers who loaded the crates into the truck, I felt the prickle of unseen eyes, crazed men, watching. I used the action of lighting a cigarette, a habit I'd affect for the op, to subtly scan the surrounding cranes and warehouses. I saw one shadow move where there shouldn't be one. Not craze. The stance was all wrong. Too tense. Too federal. Hank, or one of his team, they were watching the watchers. A safety net I hadn't been told about. A surge of anger mixed with relief. Lone Star Protocol, but Grayson had left a thread. I didn't know if I was grateful or furious at the breach of directive. The transfer was complete. The truck drove away into the gloom. I stood in the rain, the cigarette a dying ember in my fingers. The job done. My phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. Warehouse 7. Now, V. Cray. I headed to the designated warehouse, a smaller, cleaner facility than the last. He was there, with two new men. He was smiling. Excellent. Seamless. He handed me a thick envelope. Cash. Your bonus. And your invitation. He handed me a simple, black key card. The Drake Hotel, penthouse suite. Tomorrow night, 9 p.m. A gathering of the council. Do not be late, and come alone. Your sister will be our guest until you return. Ice filled my veins. That's not necessary. It is, he said, his smile vanishing. Trust is a two-way street. You have mine. Now, I will have yours. She will be comfortable, unharmed. This is just insurance. He nodded, and one of his men stepped forward, holding out a phone. On the screen was a live feed. Sarah, sitting in a well-appointed living room, looking pale but calm, sipping a glass of water. It was a message. We have her. Play nice. I took the key card, the plastic feeling like a shiv in my hand. I'll be there. Back in my car, I slammed my fists against the steering wheel. A scream of frustration trapped in my throat. They had Sarah. The op was balanced on a knife's edge. I activated the bracelet. Hank, they have Sarah. She's a hostage. The meet with the council is tomorrow. The Drake. His response was immediate. Grim. We saw the pickup. Clean. We didn't know about the sister. Location of the hostage site. Unknown. Live feed only. I need a trace on the signal. On it. We'll find her. You have to go to the council meeting. It's the whole ball game. We'll get her out. Commander, I promise. The promise felt thin. The next 24 hours were a torment of inaction. I prepared for the meeting, choosing clothes that were professional but not intimidating. Armed with a tiny subcutaneous locator bead Grayson had smuggled to me in a microdot on a restaurant receipt. Hank's team was working on tracing Sarah's feed, but Cray's tech was good. The signal was bouncing. The following night, at 8:55 p.m., I stood outside the penthouse suite of the Drake. I took a breath, the commander mind locking into place. Sarah's face flashed to my mind. I swiped the key card. The door opened to a scene of subdued opulence. The suite was vast, all soft lighting and deep carpets. 5 people were in the room. Victor Cray, Declan Moore, who looked profoundly out of his depth and terrified, a woman in her 60s with the sharp, calculating eyes of a corporate raider, a younger man, muscular, with the bearing of a soldier, and in the center, in a high-backed chair, an older man with a neatly trimmed white beard and an air of immense, calm authority. He was studying a tablet, but looked up as I entered. Ah, the older man said, his voice a warm, avuncular rumble that was utterly at odds with the setting. The prodigy, Victor has told us so much. I am Mr. Alistair. Welcome to the council. I nodded, my senses on high alert. This was it, the inner circle. Your work has been exemplary, the woman said. Her name, I would learn, was Rosalind Vance. The Hungarian shipment was particularly elegant. You have a gift for obscuring provenance. It's just math, I said, keeping my voice steady. It's war, the younger man, Stefan, corrected, his voice a gravelly monotone. Economics is the battlefield. You're a good soldier. They spoke for an hour, probing my knowledge, my motivations. I was Kelly Watson, bitter ex-con, seeing the corrupt system for what it was, and deciding to get her piece. They seemed satisfied. Mr. Alistair was about to speak when Cray's phone buzzed. He looked at it, and his face, for the first time, showed a flicker of surprise, then cold anger. He leaned over, whispering in Alistair's ear. Alistair's friendly demeanor didn't change, but his eyes hardened. He looked directly at me. "It appears there has been a complication regarding your insurance." My heart stopped. "Our location where your sister was being kept comfortable was compromised. There was an incursion by federal agents." The room went very still. Declan looked like he might vomit. "Fortunately," Alistair continued, "our security protocols are robust. The agents were repelled, but in the confusion, a new asset was acquired." He nodded to Stefan, who walked to a side door and opened it. Two of Cray's men dragged a hooded, stumbling figure into the room. They threw him to the floor at the center of the circle. He was bruised, his clothes torn. Stefan yanked the hood off. It was Hank. His face was bloodied, one eye swollen shut, but the other eye found mine, and in it I saw no fear, only a fierce, blazing warning. "It seems your deceased FBI boyfriend is remarkably resilient," Cray said, his voice like silk over a razor, "and that he had friends who knew exactly where to look for your sister. A remarkable coincidence, wouldn't you say, Commander?" All eyes were on me. The warmth was gone. The room was now a tribunal. "I don't know how he survived," I said, the lie flowing smoothly, fueled by a terror that was entirely real. "I shot him. I saw him go down. The body was dumped. Yet here he is." Rosalind Vance mused, "and his colleagues attacked our facility. The only link between your sister and that facility was you. You knew its location. I was told she was being held. I didn't know where." I protested, letting desperation creep into my voice. "He must have followed me. He must have had a tracker on me, or on my car. He was FBI. For God's sake, he played me. He played all of us." I was scrambling, throwing out plausible explanations, trying to drive a wedge of doubt. Hank remained silent on the floor, his gaze locked on mine, willing me to see something. "A tracker," Cray mused. He stepped forward suddenly, grabbing my left wrist. He yanked the bracelet communicator off. Snapping the delicate clasp, he examined it, then threw it to the ground, crushing it under his heel. A simple transmitter. How mundane. He hadn't identified it as an FBI issue comm. He thought it was a commercial tracker. Hope, thin and desperate, flared. He was monitoring me. I pressed, tears of furious betrayal springing to my eyes. He never trusted me. He was using me to get to you, and now he's blown my cover. I turned to Alistair, pouring every ounce of convincing rage into my plea. "You have to believe me. I am loyal to this, to the opportunity. He is the enemy." Alistair watched me, his face unreadable. Then he looked at Hank. "And what does the enemy have to say for himself?" Hank spat blood onto the expensive rug. He looked at Cray, at Alistair, then finally at me. His one good eye held mine, and he gave an almost imperceptible shake of his head. A warning. Then he smiled, a bloody, defiant grin. "She's lying," he croaked. "She's been lying to you from the start. Check her left shoulder. Subcutaneous locator bead. FBI issue. They're listening right now." The room exploded into motion. Stefan was on me in an instant, his hands like vices. He tore the sleeve of my blouse, his fingers probing near my scapula. He found it, the tiny, almost invisible bump. He dug a knife from his belt. "Wait," I screamed, but it was too late. The blade bit in, a white-hot spike of pain. He pried the tiny device out, holding it up like a trophy. It was slick with my blood. The game was up. Hank had blown my cover to save the op. He'd sacrificed himself to maintain my position, to keep me in the room. The pain in my shoulder was nothing compared to the shattering realization. Alistair sighed, a sound of profound disappointment. "A pity. You showed such promise." He looked at Cray. "Victor, you vouched for her. This failure is yours to rectify." Cray's face was a mask of cold fury. He pulled a pistol from his shoulder holster and pointed it at Hank's head. "A mess requires cleaning, but a true test of loyalty requires more than killing a stranger." He slowly turned the gun, offering it to me. "Grip first." His eyes were dead chips of ice. "You will execute the federal agent. Again, this time we will watch, and this time you will use a real bullet. Prove where your loyalty lies, Commander, or join him on the floor." The gun in my hand felt like a lead weight, cold and alien. Victor Cray's eyes were black pits of expectation. Mr. Alastair watched with detached curiosity. Rosalind Vance sipped her wine. Stefan's grip on my injured arm was a steel vice. The burning pain from the knife wound a sharp counterpoint to the icy dread flooding my veins. Hank lay at my feet, his one good eye holding mine. In that eye, I didn't see fear. I saw fierce, urgent command. Finish it. The subcutaneous locator was gone, crushed under Stefan's boot. My communicator bracelet was destroyed. I was off the grid. Hank's revelation had been a Hail Mary, a desperate, brutal play to reestablish my cover by painting himself as a vengeful, lying fed, trying to drag me down with him. It was a gamble that my performance and the council's desire to believe in a valuable asset would outweigh the damning evidence. I had to sell it. I had to sell it with everything I had. I let the betrayal and fury that was already half real boil over. I channeled it not at Cray, but at Hank. I wrenched my arm from Stefan's grasp, the motion making fresh blood soak through my torn sleeve, and took the pistol from Cray. You son of a bitch, I whispered, the words dripping with a venom that was only partly acted. You used me. You tracked me. You set me up from the beginning. I pointed the gun at his face, my hand trembling with a convincing mix of shock and rage. Hank coughed, a wet, painful sound. Just doing my job. Kelly, you were always just an asset, a broken one at that. He was feeding me lines, building the narrative. The scorn in his voice was masterful. I saved your life in Caracas, I screamed, the lie exploding from me with instinctive force. A shared history that never was. A debt that explained my initial reluctance to kill him. It was a detail born of pure operative instinct. A layer of human complexity to sell the story. A flicker of surprise, then admiration, passed through Hank's swollen eye. He ran with it. And you've been a pain in my ass ever since. Should have left you in that ditch. I sobbed, a raw, ugly sound. I let the gun waver, let them see the conflict. The broken woman, torn between a twisted sense of past loyalty and the crushing need to prove herself to her new masters. I looked at Cray, tears streaming down my face. You see what he is. He's poison. He's been poisoning everything. Cray's expression was unreadable, but Mr. Alastair leaned forward, intrigued. Caracas, he murmured, a lifetime ago. I choked out, not elaborating. Let them fill in the blanks with their own cynicism. A messy, personal history with a federal agent was far more believable than a cold, professional infiltration. The past is irrelevant, Cray said coldly, but I saw the doubt in his eyes. Hank's performance, my reaction, had introduced a seed of uncertainty. Was this a federal trap, or was it a messy, interpersonal disaster he could exploit? The proof is in the device in your shoulder. The device he revealed. He revealed it because he knew it was there. I shot back, my voice cracking. He put it there, after the warehouse. When he was dead, he must have had someone follow me, dart me, implant it, to frame me, to burn me, because I got away from him. The theory spun itself out, wild, but internally consistent. It painted Hank as vengeful and cunning, and me as a pawn in a personal feud. The room was silent. I could see the calculations happening behind Rosalind Vance's eyes. Stefan just looked bored, eager for violence. Mr. Alastair steepled his fingers. A compelling drama, Alastair said softly, but the fact remains, a federal tracking device was found in your person. The agent, alive or dead, is a liability, and your sister's location was compromised. The connection is you. Loyalty, Ms. Watson, is not proven by words or by tears. It is proven by irreversible action. He was giving me a path, a bloody, horrific path. But a path. Kill Hank definitively, and the question of my loyalty becomes moot. The act itself would be the answer. I looked down at Hank. His eye held mine. The faintest nod. It was the signal, the same signal from the warehouse. Do it. But this was different. The warehouse was theater. This could be real. The gun in my hand was a 9mm Glock. Standard FBI issue, probably taken from Hank when he was captured. It was loaded with real bullets. There was no trick cartridge. No remote squib. Cray would check. They all would. Hank's plan, I realized with a chilling clarity, wasn't for another fake execution. It was for a real one. His death, by my hand, was the only thing that would cement my place. He was sacrificing himself for the op, for the chance to take down the council. For me, the magnitude of it stole my breath. I couldn't, not Hank, not the cocky agent who called me commander with a grin. You have to. The thought was cold, clear, and it came from the very core of the commander. The mission is everything. He knew the risks. He made the call. Honor it. My vision tunneled. The sounds of the room. The faint city hum through the penthouse windows. Rosalind's bracelet clinking against her glass. Faded away. There was only Hank's face, the gun in my hand, and the expectant silence of the monsters in the room. I took a deep, shuddering breath. The tears on my face felt cold. I let the heartbroken, betrayed woman fall away. What was left was something harder, sharper, something that had pulled a trigger before. I straightened my arm, the tremor gone. My grip on the pistol was professional, steady. I aimed not at his head, but at center mass. A cleaner, more certain shot, a professional shot. Goodbye, Hank, I said, my voice flat. Dead. His eye closed. A faint, almost peaceful smile touched his bloody lips. I pulled the trigger. The blast was deafening in the enclosed space. Hank's body jerked violently. A spray of crimson hit the pristine carpet. He lay still for a long moment. No one moved. The smell of cordite and copper filled the air. I lowered the gun, my arm hanging limply at my side. I felt nothing, a vast, echoing nothing. Cray stepped forward. He knelt, pressing his fingers to Hank's neck. He waited 10 seconds, 20. He then did what he hadn't in the warehouse. He lifted Hank's eyelid, checked for a pupillary response. He placed a small, mirrored surface from a compact under Hank's nose. No fog. He stood, nodding to Mr. Alistair. He's gone. The tension in the room broke, shifting into something else. Rosalind looked vaguely impressed. Stefan grunted, losing interest. Mr. Alistair studied me, his avuncular mask back in place, but his eyes were like a biologist examining a fascinating new specimen. A necessary unpleasantness. Alistair said, not without a hint of sympathy. You understand. Of course. Trust, once questioned, must be redeemed in blood. Yours, or another's. You chose wisely. The body, Cray said, his voice all business now. The test was over. I had passed. I was in. I'll have it disposed of. Stefan said, moving forward. No, I said, the word leaving my lips before I could stop it. They all looked at me. I forced steel into my voice. He was mine. My mistake. My mess. I'll clean it. I know a place. An industrial incinerator. It will be ash in an hour. No traces. I needed control of the body. I needed to know, to see, if there was any chance, but I couldn't think that. Hope was a vulnerability I couldn't afford. Cray and Alistair exchanged a look. Then Alistair nodded. As you wish. Stefan will accompany you. To assist. It wasn't a request. I nodded, numb. Stefan summoned 2 of his men. They wrapped Hank's body in a thick plastic tarp. I led the way out of the penthouse, down in the service elevator, to a loading bay where a black SUV idled. We drove in silence. I gave directions to a scrapyard I'd cased weeks ago as a potential disposal site. My mind was a blank, white noise at the scrapyard, under the sickly yellow glow of security lights. Stefan's men pulled the tarp-wrapped bundle from the SUV and dumped it unceremoniously onto the greasy concrete near the gaping maw of a furnace. The night foreman, a man deep in Cray's pocket, gave a nod and retreated. Get it done, Stefan said, lighting a cigarette. He and his men leaned against the SUV, watching. They weren't leaving until the body was ash. I stood over the bundle. The shape inside was horribly familiar. I had to do this. I had to sell the final act. I gestured to the foreman. He started the furnace with a deep, roaring ignition. The heat washed over us. As the men moved to heave the bundle onto the conveyor feed, I held up a hand. Wait. I walked to the body, kneeling beside it. I placed a hand on the plastic, over where the heart would be. A final gesture, a goodbye. For the cameras, I was sure Stefan had on him. For the story, I let a single, real tear fall for Hank, for myself, for the whole damned bloody business. And then stood, nodding sharply. Do it. The men grunted, lifting the bundle onto the conveyor. It began its slow, jerky journey into the inferno. I forced myself to watch as the plastic blackened, curled, and was consumed by flames. I watched until there was nothing but a vague shape being licked by fire. Stefan came to stand beside me, watching the flames reflect in his dead eyes. "Hard part's over," he grunted. "Now you're one of us." He clapped a heavy hand on my wounded shoulder. I didn't flinch. When the furnace cycle was complete, Stefan was satisfied. He drove me back to my apartment building, saying nothing. I walked upstairs on legs that felt like wood. Inside, I locked the door, engaged all the security protocols I'd installed, and then collapsed against it, sliding to the floor. The emptiness was gone, replaced by a wave of nausea and a grief so profound it felt like a physical wound. I'd killed him. I'd killed Hank. I'd murdered a fellow agent, a man who'd sacrificed himself to give me a chance. The mission was intact. I was inside the council, and I was utterly, completely alone. I don't know how long I sat there. The gray light of dawn was creeping through the windows when a soft, almost inaudible tap came at my door. Not a knock, a tap, a pattern. Tap, 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 tap. A recognition code, an old one, from a training module I hadn't thought of in years. My heart, which felt like a stone in my chest, gave a painful thud. I crawled to the door, peering through the fisheye. The hallway was empty. I unlocked and opened the door a crack. A small, plain envelope lay on the mat. I snatched it inside, locked the door, and tore it open. Inside was a single, tiny data chip and a slip of paper with 2 words: medical van. Hope, treacherous and wild, surged. The incinerator. The foreman was in Cray's pocket. But what if he was also on someone else's payroll? Grayson's? The body swap at the warehouse had been staged with a dummy. Could they have done it again? At the penthouse? The blood. The lack of pulse. It was possible with the right tech, the right preparation. Hank's reveal of my tracker, it was a distraction. A piece of theater designed to make the execution seem more real, to make them less likely to look too closely at the body afterward. But the shot I'd fired, I'd felt the recoil, I'd seen him hit. I rushed to my laptop, a secure, air-gapped machine hidden in a false panel in the wall. I inserted the chip. A video file popped up. It was black and white, slightly grainy, from a body-worn camera. The audio was muffled, but clear. The perspective was from Hank's chest. It showed the penthouse floor, then my face, twisted in fury and grief, pointing the gun. His voice, raspy. "You were always just an asset." My scream. "I saved your life in Caracas." Then the gunshot, a deafening roar, and the camera view spun and went still, facing the ceiling. A second later, a whispered voice. Hank's voice, strained but alive. "Package secure. Extraction point Delta. Go, go, go." The video cut. He was alive. The shot a blank, a squib in his clothing. Triggered by the gun's report? It didn't matter. He was alive. The weight crushing my chest lifted, leaving me lightheaded. They'd pulled it off. Another layer of the deception. Hank's sacrifice wasn't his life. It was his freedom. He was now officially dead to Cray and the council, which meant he could work in the shadows without fear of being hunted. And I had proven my loyalty in the most visceral way possible. I laughed, a short, hysterical sound that turned into a sob. The emotional whiplash was devastating. I allowed myself exactly 1 minute of weakness, of relief, before the commander reasserted control. There was work to do. The data chip had other files. Dossier on Rosalind Vance, a corporate raider whose hostile takeovers were fronts for asset stripping and laundering. On Stefan, ex-Spetsnaz, suspected of half a dozen assassinations for hire across Europe. On Mr. Alistair, real name unknown, suspected of being the ideological and financial backbone of the council, with ties to oligarchs and rogue states. And a final file, marked urgent, eyes only. It was from Grayson. "Commander, Hank is secure." Well done. The play was risky, but it worked. You are now inside. The council is your primary target. Their next move will be to integrate you fully. Expect a task that is both a reward and a test. We have identified the likely leak within our organization. someone with access to deep cover operative files. Investigation is ongoing, but compartmentalized. Trust no one from this end except via this channel. Your sister, Sarah, was extracted from the hostage site. The raid was a cover. She is in protective custody, but she sustained a gunshot wound during the exchange. She is in stable condition at a secure medical facility. She asked for you. You cannot see her. Maintain focus. The council is planning a major liquidity event. We believe it is connected to the upcoming midterm elections. Follow the money. Find the conduit. Grayson. Sarah, shot. The news was a fresh blow. She was alive, stable, but she'd been hurt because of me, because of this op. The guilt was a live wire, but Grayson was right. I couldn't go to her. My grief, my concern, had to be for the dead FBI agent, not my wounded sister. Cray would be watching. I destroyed the data chip and the note, flushing the ashes. I showered. The hot water, stinging the hastily stitched knife, wound on my shoulder. I changed into clean, dark clothes. I was putting on a fresh coat of emotional armor when my phone buzzed. A number I didn't recognize. Yes, the performance was compelling. Victor Cray's voice was smooth on the line. Alistair is pleased. He has a job for you, a gesture of trust, and a significant opportunity. Be at the private hangar at Midway, 4 p.m. A car will collect you. Bring your passport. He hung up. The call to action, the test after the test. I packed a go bag, my mind already shifting to the next objective. The hangar meant travel, international, the liquidity event Grayson mentioned. The car that picked me up was a black sedan with tinted windows. Stefan was driving. He said nothing the entire way to the airport. At a private hangar away from the main terminals, a sleek Gulfstream jet idled. Cray and Rosalind Vance were already on board, sipping champagne. Mr. Alistair was not present. Where are we going? I asked, stowing my bag. Zurich. Rosalind said, smiling, the true vault of the world. We have a series of meetings. You will be our technical liaison. The individuals we're meeting are old-fashioned. They prefer face-to-face assurances regarding the flow of funds. You will provide those assurances. It was a massive step up from moving money digitally to being the human face of the operation for the bankers who enabled it. This was the inner circle's trust, fragile and conditional, but given. The flight was long. I slept, or pretended to. In Zurich, a car took us to a discreet, centuries-old bank on the Bahnhofstrasse. The meetings were a blur of suited men in wood-paneled rooms, speaking in hushed tones about asset reallocation, political stability funds, and commodity futures. My role was to explain, in crisp, technical detail, how the funds from various enterprises, arms, drugs, corruption, were being sanitized through a Byzantine network of shell companies and crypto washes before being deposited here, ready for investment. The bankers, for all their polish, were criminals in pinstripes. They asked pointed questions, and I answered with cold precision. I could see Rosalind and Cray's satisfaction growing. I was an asset, and I was performing. On the third day, between meetings, Cray took me aside in the bank's ornate lavatory. You have done well. Alistair is impressed. There is one more individual you must meet. Tonight, at the Dolder Grand. This is the most important meeting of all. Do not speak unless spoken to. Observe, learn. That evening, in a private suite at the luxurious Dolder Grand Hotel, I was introduced to the source of the political stability funds. The man was American, in his late 50s, with a perfectly tailored suit, a tan that spoke of golf courses, and the easy, confident demeanor of immense power. He shook my hand with a politician's grip. So, you're the wizard behind the curtain, he said, his smile not reaching his cold, assessing eyes. Victor tells me you're a miracle worker with problematic liquidity. I provide solutions, sir, I said, my voice neutral. I'm sure you do. I'm Senator Richard Coleridge, and the solutions you provide are vital to the future of this country. He turned to Cray. She's cleared for the Dover Initiative. She is. Cray said, Senator Coleridge. The name sent a jolt through me. He was on the Senate Armed Services and Intelligence Committees, a rising star, a moderate with bipartisan clout. And he was here, in a Zurich hotel room, laundering money through the council. The Dover Initiative was the liquidity event, a massive, coordinated injection of dark money into a dozen key congressional midterm races, via super PACs and shadowy nonprofits, to ensure a Congress that would be amenable to the Council's interests, defense contracts, sanctions relief, policy shifts worth billions. I was to be the quartermaster, ensuring the untraceable flow from criminal enterprises to Swiss accounts to American political action committees. It was the motherlode, the kind of intelligence that could bring down a senator and cripple a vast criminal political syndicate. As I stood there, sipping water, listening to them discuss betraying a nation as casually as a stock trade, I knew Hank hadn't died for this. He'd gambled his life for it, and I was in the room where it happened. The meeting ended with handshakes and veiled promises. On the flight back to Chicago, Rosalind was almost jovial. "You've moved up in the world. My dear, the Dover Initiative is our most ambitious project yet. Your share will be considerable." I nodded, feigning greedy satisfaction. Inside, I was already planning the data drop, the secure way to get everything. Names, account numbers, transfer routes to Grayson. The op was on the brink of completion. We landed in Chicago just after midnight. Stefan drove me home. As I got out at my building, he leaned out the window. "You did good, Watson. Don't fuck it up." It was the closest thing to camaraderie I'd get from him. I entered my building, exhaustion weighing on me. The hallway was dim. As I approached my door, I saw it was slightly ajar. Every sense went on high alert. I drew the small pistol I now carried constantly, the one Cray had given me after Zurich for personal security. I pushed the door open slowly. The apartment was dark, a mess. It had been tossed, cushions slashed, drawers upended, my few personal items scattered. A professional, thorough search, but that wasn't what made my blood run cold. Spray painted on the wall above my shredded sofa, in stark red letters, was a message: "He's not the only mole, Commander." And beneath it, taped to the wall, was a grainy, black and white photograph. It was a surveillance photo taken from a distance. It showed Hank alive, healthy, out of disguise, standing on a street corner, talking to a man in a suit. The man was facing away from the camera, but I knew the posture, the set of the shoulders. It was Assistant Director Martin Grayson. The photo was dated 3 days ago, after Hank was supposed to be dead, after the incinerator. The message wasn't from Cray. He had no reason to threaten me like this. Not after Zurich. This was from someone else, the other mole, the one inside the FBI. And they weren't just leaking information to Cray anymore. They were talking directly to me. They knew Hank was alive. They knew Grayson was my handler. They knew everything. And they were in my apartment. As the meaning of the word sank in, a floorboard creaked behind me. I spun, raising the gun, but a blinding pain exploded in the side of my head. The world tilted, fractured into splinters of light and shadow. The last thing I saw before the darkness swallowed me was a pair of polished black shoes stepping into my field of view. Then, nothing. Consciousness returned in a nauseating wave of throbbing pain and disorientation. The world was dark, muffled, and moving. The scent of stale air, oil, and something coppery, blood. My blood filled my nostrils. A rough fabric scraped against my cheek. I was hooded, my hands bound behind my back with plastic zip ties, my ankles similarly secured. I was lying on my side in what felt like the trunk of a car, the vibrations of the road traveling up through the metal frame. The message on the wall burned behind my eyelids. "He's not the only mole, Commander." And the photo, Hank and Grayson, alive, talking, after Hank's death. The betrayal was a cold, sick knot in my gut, sharper than the pain in my head. The mole wasn't just leaking information. They were playing a deeper game, and I was a pawn who'd just been swept off the board. I tested my bonds. Secure, but not professional. The zip ties were cheap, the kind you could buy at any hardware store. My captor was either confident or in a hurry. I worked my wrists, feeling the plastic bite into my skin, searching for any sharp edge in the trunk. My fingers brushed against the rough carpet. A loose screw head there, a small, protruding metal ridge near the taillight housing. I began sawing the plastic against it, a slow, agonizing process that tore at my wrists. The car took a turn, throwing me against the side. I stifled a grunt and kept working. Who had taken me? Not Cray. His style was more direct. He'd have had Stefan put a bullet in me, not leave cryptic messages. The council? Possibly, but the message felt personal, aimed at me, at my alias, the mole. It had to be the mole. They knew I'd seen the photo. They knew I'd make the connection. Grayson was compromised, or he was the compromise. Hank. Hank's survival was part of Grayson's play. Had it all been a setup from the beginning? Was I ever truly an FBI agent, or just a piece in someone else's chess game? The zip tie snapped. My hands were free, raw and bleeding. I quickly pulled off the hood, a coarse sack, and went to work on my ankles. The trunk was dark, but a sliver of light from the taillight assembly provided minimal illumination. I found the emergency release lever, a glowing T-shaped handle, standard on most cars made in the last 2 decades. My captor was either an amateur or hadn't bothered to disable it. Another point toward haste, not professionalism. I waited. The car slowed, took a sharp turn onto what sounded like gravel, then came to a stop. The engine cut, doors opened and closed. 2 sets of footsteps, one heavy, one lighter. I curled into a fetal position, pulling the hood back over my head, my freed hands tucked behind me, gripping the broken zip tie. The trunk popped open. Dim, yellowish light filtered through the sackcloth. Told you to make sure she was out. A man's voice grumbled. It was vaguely familiar, but strained with tension. I hit her hard enough, a younger voice, whiny and defensive, replied. She's a girl. For Christ's sake, how tough could she be? You have no idea what she is, the first voice said. Closer now. A hand grabbed my shoulder, rolling me onto my back. Get her legs. We'll drag her inside. As the younger one fumbled for my ankles, I struck in one fluid motion. I shoved the hood off, sat up, and drove the jagged, broken end of the plastic zip tie deep into the thigh of the man leaning over me. He screamed a high, startled sound and stumbled back. I had a glimpse of a bulky man in a security guard's uniform, his face contorted in pain. The younger one, a pimple-faced kid in a baggy hoodie, froze, eyes wide. I launched myself out of the trunk, landing on the gravel in a crouch. We were in a secluded, wooded area, in front of a dilapidated hunting cabin. One car, an old sedan, no other signs of life. The bulky guard was swearing, yanking the plastic shard from his leg. The kid just stood there, paralyzed. I didn't wait. I ran. I crashed into the woods, branches whipping at my face. My dress shoes slipping on the damp leaves and pine needles. Shouts echoed behind me, then the sound of a gunshot. The bullet cracked into a tree to my left. They were shooting, amateurs, panicking. I ran with no direction except away, the adrenaline overriding the pounding in my skull. The forest was thick, the moon offering only dappled, unreliable light. I heard crashing behind me, the heavier man lumbering in pursuit, the kid yelping as he fell. After what felt like an eternity, the sounds of pursuit faded. I leaned against a thick oak, gasping for breath, my side aching. I was lost, weaponless, and in a world of trouble. The mole knew I was loose. Cray and the council thought I was their newly minted lieutenant. The FBI, or at least Grayson's faction, thought I was still undercover and in play. And I had a photo burning a hole in my mind that implicated my handler in a conspiracy. I needed to get to Hank. He was the only variable that didn't fit. If he was in league with Grayson and the mole, why sacrifice himself in the penthouse? Why the whole elaborate death charade? Unless that, too, was for a deeper audience. Unless I was meant to see that photo, to doubt everything. A memory, sharp and sudden, pierced the fog of pain and confusion. Caracas. I'd shouted the lie at Hank in the penthouse. I saved your life in Caracas. It had been an improvisation, a detail to sell our fake history. But as the words had left my mouth, a flash had come with it. The smell of diesel and rain, the weight of a rifle, the taste of blood in my mouth, the feeling of dragging a man with Hank's face, but younger, softer, through a muddy alley under a hail of gunfire, a ghost memory from a life I didn't remember living. I pushed it aside. First, survival, then answers. I oriented myself as best I could, using the sliver of moon. I needed to find a road, a house, a way back to the city. I moved as quietly as I could, my senses straining. After an hour, I saw the distant, warm glow of lights through the trees. A farmhouse. I approached with caution, circling to the back. An old pickup truck was parked near a barn. A light was on in the kitchen. I saw an elderly man through the window, reading a newspaper at the table. A landline phone hung on the wall. It was a risk, but I was out of options. I knocked on the back door, trying to look as disheveled and non-threatening as possible. The man opened the door, peering at me with surprise and suspicion over the rim of his reading glasses. "Good Lord, girl, what happened to you?" "Car accident," I said, my voice trembling convincingly. "My phone's dead. I just need to call a friend to come get me. Please." He hesitated, then his demeanor softened. "You're bleeding. Come in. Come in. Let me get you a towel." He ushered me into the warm, cluttered kitchen. "Phone's right there. You want me to call the sheriff?" "No," I said too quickly. I forced a pained smile. "No, thank you. It was just a fender bender. I'd rather not involve the police. My friend will come." He nodded, though he still looked doubtful. "I'll be in the living room. You take your time." He shuffled out, giving me privacy. The moment he was gone, I went to the phone. I didn't call Hank's burn number. I didn't call Grayson's secure line. I dialed a number I hadn't called in over a decade. A number buried so deep in my memory, I was shocked I remembered it. A number from a life before Kelly Watson, before the FBI. A number for a man who lived off the grid and asked no questions, because the questions were usually more dangerous than the answers. It rang twice before a gruff voice answered. "Yeah, I need a dust-off," I said, using the old, coded phrase, "Songbird is grounded." I repeat, "Songbird is grounded." Coordinates to follow from a clean line. 30 minutes. There was a long pause. Then, "Understood. 30. The line went dead. I hung up, my heart hammering. I'd just broken every protocol, every rule. I'd gone completely dark, off the books of even the off-the-books operation. I was now a rogue agent, if I'd ever been an agent at all. I scribbled the farm's approximate location on a notepad by the phone, along with a crude map. Then I took a deep breath and dialed a second number. Sarah's secret cell phone, the one I'd given her for emergencies only, the one the FBI wasn't supposed to know about. It rang 4 times before she answered, her voice a frail whisper. "Kelly, listen to me. No names. Are you safe? Are you alone?" I'm in the hospital. The safe house. It's okay. They're nice." Her voice was doped with painkillers, but there was an underlying fear. "Is anyone with you?" "Nurses. Agents." An agent outside the door. Martin said it was for my protection. "Grayson." My blood ran cold. "Sarah, I need you to listen very carefully. The agent outside your door. He might not be there to protect you. I need you to get out now." "What?" "Kelly, I can't. I was shot. I can't just. There's a fire alarm next to your bathroom. In 30 minutes. I need you to pull it. When the alarm goes off and everyone evacuates, you go the other way. Take the service stairs at the end of the hall. Go down to the basement laundry. There will be a delivery van parked at the loading dock. A man named Cyrus will be driving. Get in the van. Do you understand? Cyrus, loading dock. 30 minutes. Kelly, you're scaring me. What's happening? I'll explain later. Just trust me. Please, 30 minutes. I hung up before she could protest, before the call could be traced. I prayed she'd listen. I prayed Cyrus, my ghost from the past, was still as good as his word. I thanked the old farmer, refusing his offer of a ride, and slipped back into the woods. 20 minutes later, from a hilltop a mile away, I saw the flashing lights of an ambulance and a fire truck winding their way toward the farmhouse. My captors had tracked the call. They were too late. I moved deeper into the woods, following the coordinates I'd mentally plotted. Exactly 30 minutes after my call, I heard the distinctive, heavy thump of rotor blades. A dark, unmarked helicopter, running without lights, descended into a clearing I'd specified. The side door slid open. I ran, crouching under the downdraft, and scrambled inside. The helicopter lifted off immediately. The pilot, a grizzled man with a beard that hid most of his face, nodded at me once. "Songbird." "Cyrus," I said, buckling in. "Thank you." "Don't thank me yet. Your tab just got a lot bigger." "Where to?" "A place to disappear. And gear. I need everything." He grunted. "Got just the spot." 2 hours later, in a prepper's bunker buried under a defunct auto shop in rural Indiana, I was armed, showered, and dressed in dark, tactical gear. I had a new, untraceable laptop, burned phones, cash, and a small arsenal. Cyrus worked in silence, asking no questions. He'd done this for me before, in a life I couldn't fully remember. He was a ghost, and right now, I needed to be one too. On the laptop, using a daisy chain of VPNs and dark web portals, I began to dig. I started with Senator Richard Coleridge. The public face was clean. War hero, family man, bipartisan dealmaker, but my access, even compromised, gave me pathways into back channels. I used old CIA algorithms. I didn't remember learning to pierce firewalls. Following the money from the Zurich accounts, it led to shell companies, to offshore trusts, to donations to obscure political action committees that ran attack ads in key districts. It led to defense contractors who'd gotten no-bid contracts after Coleridge's committee approved them. It led to a pattern of corruption so vast it was dizzying. Coleridge wasn't just a beneficiary of the council. He was a founding member. The Dover Initiative was his brainchild. He was the political arm, the one who made the dirty money clean by reshaping the government itself. But I needed more. I needed the proof that would stick, the undeniable link. And for that, I needed to get physical. I needed to get inside. My target was a brownstone in Georgetown, Washington, D.C., not Coleridge's official residence, but a property owned by one of his shells, a historical preservation society. Intelligence, gleaned from snippets of conversation in Zurich and cross-referenced with traffic patterns and utility records, suggested it was his real command center, a place he felt safe, away from prying eyes and government surveillance. Getting in would be next to impossible for anyone else. But I wasn't anyone else. I was the commander, and I had a ghost skills and a burning need for truth. A week of planning, of watching, of using Cyrus's network to acquire blueprints and security schedules. I went in on a rainy Wednesday night when Coleridge was scheduled to be at a fundraiser across town. The brownstone security was state-of-the-art. Motion sensors, thermal imaging, pressure plates, a direct link to a private security firm. It was a fortress. I bypassed it all. I used a frequency jammer to create a blind spot in the external cameras for 12 seconds, just long enough to scale the rusted fire escape of the adjacent building and leap across the 4-foot gap to the brownstone's roof. I picked the reinforced lock on the roof access door with tools so fine they looked like dental instruments. Inside, I disabled the pressure-sensitive floor mats with a portable EM pulse that fried their circuits without triggering the main alarm. I was a shadow moving through the silent, opulent home. I found his office on the 3rd floor, a massive oak desk, leather chairs, walls lined with books, and framed photos of Coleridge with presidents, generals, celebrities. It was a stage set for power. I went straight for the desk. The computer was a dead-end, encrypted, biometric lock. But politicians of his generation had a weakness. Paper. They trusted the tangible. The bottom left drawer of the desk was locked. It took me 90 seconds to pick it. Inside were not files, but a single, sleek, silver laptop. It was a standalone system, not connected to any network. A vault. I plugged in a portable power source and a hardware keylogger I'd brought. It would capture every keystroke when the laptop was next used. I also placed a tiny, wireless camera behind a photograph on the bookshelf, giving me a view of the desk. I was about to close the drawer when a glint of something caught my eye. Taped to the underside of the drawer was a small, rectangular black device, a flash drive. I pried it loose. It was unmarked, a risk, but I took it. Pocketing the drive, I was resetting the drawer lock when I heard it. The soft chime of the front door opening downstairs, followed by voices. A quick stop. "Charles, I need those papers for the morning." It was Coleridge. He was home early. "Yes, Senator. I'll wait in the car." Footsteps on the stairs. My exit was blocked. The office had one door and a window that opened onto a 3-story drop to a brick patio. I looked around frantically. A heavy, floor-to-ceiling tapestry depicting a Revolutionary War scene hung against one wall. I slipped behind it, pressing myself flat against the wall, just as the office door opened and the lights flicked on. Coleridge entered, humming to himself. He went straight to the desk, sat down, and without hesitation, placed his thumb on a scanner on the silver laptop. it word to life. He typed in a long password. I watched through a tiny gap in the tapestry, the camera in my pocket recording everything. He opened a file, studying it. From my angle, I could see it was a list of names and dollar amounts, campaign contributions. Then, he opened an encrypted chat client. A video call connected. The face that appeared on the screen made my blood freeze. It was Assistant Director Martin Grayson. Senator, Grayson said, his voice tinny through the laptop speakers. Martin, the situation with our mutual problem, the Watson asset, has it been contained? My heart hammered against my ribs. Asset, not agent. Asset, not yet. Grayson said, his face grim. She's gone to ground. She's resourceful, more so than we anticipated. The play with Agent Rourke's death was convincing. It bought us time with Cray, but she's clearly spooked. She's a loose end, Martin, one that could unravel everything. The Dover Initiative is too important. The future of this country depends on the right people being in power. We can't have a rogue element, especially one with her history, running around. I'm aware, Senator, we're tracking her. She'll surface, and when she does, we'll handle it permanently. See that you do. And the sister, in protective custody, a useful lever, if needed, but a complication. She's asking too many questions. Then perhaps it's time to remove that lever cleanly. We're too close to the finish line. The liquidity transfer is in 72 hours. Once those funds are in the PACs, the election is ours. After that, the council's political capital will be untouchable. We can clean house at our leisure. Understood. Watson first, then the sister. I'll have a team sweep her last known location again. She's good, but she's not a ghost. Aren't you? Coleridge said with a cold smile, you were the one who recruited her from the ash heap of that Caracas disaster. After all, you built the commander. You should be able to unmake her. Caracas, the word was a key, turning in a rusty lock. Memories, sharp and painful, flooded my mind. Not a vague feeling, but clear images. A hot, crowded marketplace, the smell of fried plantains and diesel, the tang of copper blood, a mission gone wrong, betrayal, not by the enemy, but by my own side. CIA, I'd been deep cover, a deniable asset. My name wasn't Kelly Watson. It was. The name wouldn't come, but the title did. Commander. They'd called me Commander. And when the mission imploded, when the political fallout threatened to expose the agency's dirty tricks, I'd been burned, left for dead, my identity erased. Grayson hadn't recruited me for the FBI. He'd salvaged me, a broken, amnesiac weapon from the CIA's scrap heap, given a new name, a new past, a new purpose, a purpose that served his ends. And Coleridge's. I wasn't an FBI agent investigating the council. I was a CIA castoff, reactivated and inserted into the council's orbit by the council's own allies within the government. To do what? To cement their control? To eliminate rivals? I'd been a puppet, thinking I was pulling my own strings. The shock of the revelation must have made a sound, a sharp intake of breath. The scuff of a shoe against the wall. Coleridge's head snapped up. His eyes, sharp and suspicious, scanned the room. They landed on the tapestry, on the slight bulge where I was standing. Charles, he barked. Shit, I had seconds. I burst from behind the tapestry as Coleridge dove for a panic button under his desk. I was across the room in 3 strides. I didn't go for him. I went for the laptop. I yanked the power cord and the hardware keylogger, shoving the silver machine into my bag. Coleridge was on his feet, a small, elegant pistol in his hand, pointed at my chest. He didn't look like a senator now. He looked like the soldier he'd once been. Drop the bag. Commander, he said, his voice calm, or whatever you're calling yourself these days. It's over, Senator, I said, my own voice steady despite the roaring in my ears. I have everything. The chat with Grayson, the files, the Dover Initiative. It's done. You have nothing, he sneered. That laptop is encrypted with a quantum key. It's a brick without me, and you'll be dead. Another casualty in the endless war on terror. A rogue, mentally unstable former operative who went on a rampage. The story writes itself. Footsteps pounded up the stairs. Charles, the driver/bodyguard. I was trapped. You're wrong, I said, and I hurled the heavy bronze letter opener from his desk, not at him, but at the large window behind him. It shattered with a spectacular crash. In the same motion, I dropped to the floor, rolling behind the heavy oak desk as Coleridge fired. The bullet splintered the wood where my head had been. Charles burst through the door, gun raised. Freeze! I didn't freeze. I kicked the desk chair hard, sending it skidding into Charles's legs. He stumbled. I came up from behind the desk, grabbing Coleridge's gun wrist and twisting. The pistol went off again, the shot going wide. We grappled. He was stronger than he looked. Charles was recovering, lining up a shot. With a desperate heave, I spun Coleridge, using him as a shield. Charles's shot took the senator high in the shoulder. Coleridge screamed, his grip loosening. I shoved him into Charles, and in the confusion, I ran for the shattered window. 3 stories. The fire escape was to the left. Too far. Below was the brick patio. Certain death. Or certain capture. I chose a third option. I leapt, not down, but across, toward the thick, gnarled limb of an ancient oak tree that brushed against the brownstone. My hands caught the branch, the impact jolting my entire body. I hung for a terrifying second, then swung my legs up, hooking my knees over the branch. I shimmied along it toward the trunk as gunfire erupted from the window above. Bullets tearing through the leaves around me. I dropped the last 10 feet to the ground, rolling to absorb the impact, and sprinted into the dark, rain-slicked streets of Georgetown. Sirens wailed in the distance. I'd gotten the evidence, but I'd blown my infiltration sky high. I'd assaulted a United States senator. I was now the most wanted woman in America, and the only people who knew the whole truth, Grayson and Coleridge, would move heaven and earth to silence me before I could tell it. I melted into the night, the silver laptop and the stolen flash drive heavy in my bag, the ghosts of Caracas and 100 other forgotten missions screaming in my ears. I wasn't Kelly Watson. I wasn't even an FBI agent. I was a ghost with a gun and a truth that could burn the world down. And I had nowhere left to run, and no one left to trust. The rain in Georgetown was a freezing curtain, washing the blood from my hands, but not the sting of betrayal from my mind. I moved through the back alleys and mused like the ghost I was trained to be. The silver laptop and the stolen flash drive a leaden weight in my damp bag. Every siren was for me. Every pair of headlights was an unmarked FBI car. Coleridge would have spun the story already. A deranged, violent former operative, a woman with a history of psychological instability, had broken into his home. Attempted assassination and stolen state secrets. Grayson would confirm every word. I was alone in a city of enemies, with evidence I couldn't yet decrypt and a truth nobody would believe. I needed a sanctuary, a place not even Grayson's network knew about. I thought of Cyrus, but going to him would paint a target on the only person who'd helped me, without question. I thought of Hank, but the image of him with Grayson from the photo was a barbed wire around my trust. There was only one other person who was as hunted as I was. If she'd made it, I used a burner phone from my go bag, dialing the number for the secret cell I'd given Sarah. It rang once, twice Kelly. Her voice was a thin, terrified thread. The relief was so potent my knees nearly buckled. Sarah, are you safe? Are you with Cyrus? I'm in a motel, somewhere in Ohio. It's awful. The man, Cyrus, he doesn't talk. He just stares. Kelly, what is happening? The hospital. The alarm went off. There was so much shouting. Men with guns were running. I did what you said. I got out, but I was shot. I'm in pain, and I'm scared. The words tumbled out in a frantic whisper. I know. I'm so sorry, but you did good. You're alive. Listen to me. Sarah, the people who shot you, the people I work for, they're not who I thought they were. They're part of it. They're with Coleridge. A stunned silence. Did the senator? On the news? Kelly, it's all true, and I have proof, but I can't read it yet. I need help, a specific kind of help. I took a deep breath. I need you to give a message to Cyrus. Tell him I need to speak to the archivist. He'll know what it means. Can you do that? The archivist, she repeated, bewildered. Just tell him. Then stay where you are. Do whatever Cyrus says. I'll find you when I can. I hung up before my voice could break. The archivist, a legend or a myth from my fragmented CIA days. A hacker's hacker, a data ghost who lived in the deep web and could crack anything. If he was real, and if Cyrus could reach him, he was my only hope. I spent the next 24 hours in motion. A specter in the nation's capital, I slept in short, fitful bursts in the back of stolen cargo vans, ate protein bars from my bag, and watched my digital backdrail vanish into a maze of false leads. News alerts blared on public terminals. Senator Coleridge survives assassination attempt by rogue agent. My face, my Kelly Watson face, was everywhere. The narrative was tight, convincing. They'd even dredged up my juvenile record as evidence of a troubled, violent past. My burner phone buzzed with an unknown number. A text. 17th K NW, Public Library, 3rd floor, microfiche room, Terminal 7, noon, 1 hour only. Cyrus, or the archivist, or a trap. At 11:58, I was in the microfiche room of the aging public library. It smelled of dust and ozone. An elderly man was squinting at a reader. A teenager was scrolling on his phone. I sat at Terminal 7, an old desktop covered in a fine layer of dust. At exactly noon, the screen flickered to life, bypassing the login. Green text scrolled on a black background. Archivist, Commander, your tab is enormous, and you're very noisy. I typed, my fingers clumsy. I have a quantum-locked laptop. Silver, Senator Coleridge. I need everything inside. I know what you have. I've been watching the chatter. Grayson's people are scrambling. They think you're heading for the New York Times. They've locked down the usual channels. The laptop is a pomegranate-class device. Nasty. The flash drive is the key. My heart leapt. The flash drive. It's a physical one-time decryption key. He was paranoid. Wanted something not on any network. Plug it in. I fumbled the drive from my bag. Plugged it into the library computer's USB port. The screen flickered again. A progress bar appeared. Filling rapidly, files began to unpack, cascading down the screen in a waterfall of data, bank records, wire transfers, video files, transcripts, emails, a roadmap of corruption that went from the docks of Chicago to the halls of the Capitol. The Dover Initiative in terrifying detail. Which candidates were to be funded, which were to be destroyed. The media companies bought to shape the narrative. And names, dozens of names, politicians, judges, generals, journalists, all compromised, all owned by the council. And at the top, the sign-off on executive actions are Coleridge and the authorizing security clearance. M. Grayson, ASD, FBI, but there was more. Deeper files, folders labeled with op names I didn't recognize, and one labeled Caracas. Sunrise Protocol, with a trembling hand. I opened it. It was a mission dossier. My mission dossier, codenamed Commander, real name, redacted. Deep cover CIA infiltration of a Venezuelan intelligence cell with ties to Hezbollah. Objective: identify and eliminate cell leadership. Outcome: compromised. There was after-action report, signed by M. Grayson, then with the CIA. It stated that Agent Redacted had suffered a psychotic break, betrayed the team, and caused the deaths of 2 fellow officers and 14 civilians. The agent was believed killed in the ensuing firefight. The file was a work of fiction, a masterpiece of blame shifting, but appended to it were other documents, medical reports, psych evals, all forged, all painting a picture of instability and a final, chilling order. If asset is ever recovered or resurfaces, discredit and neutralize. Project Sunrise remains classified above top secret. Project Sunrise. I searched. It was a subfolder. Inside, a single, succinct memo. It outlined a false flag operation. The CIA cell, under commander, was to carry out an attack on a diplomatic convoy, blame it on the Venezuelans, and justify a pre-planned sanctions and intelligence package. I had refused. I had said I wouldn't kill civilians for a pretext. Grayson had given the order to proceed anyway. My own team had turned on me. The psychotic break was me fighting my way out as they tried to silence me. Hank had been there, a junior logistician. He'd helped me escape. He'd been the one I'd dragged through the alley. The memory was now whole, brutal, and clear. He'd been shot. I'd left him, thinking he was dead, to draw them off. He'd survived, and he'd carried the truth. A truth that could end Grayson. That's why Grayson had recruited me into the FBI, to keep me close, to control the narrative, to use me, and Hank had played along, waiting for his moment, working from within to expose it all. His death in the penthouse was his way of getting off Grayson's board, becoming a free agent to help me from the shadows. The photo in my apartment, him with Grayson. That must have been a meeting Hank had forced. To probe, to record. The mole who'd left it was trying to make me distrust the one person actually on my side. Archivist. Heavy reading. The truth is a dangerous gift. I typed, tears of rage and relief blurring the screen. Can you broadcast it? All of it, everywhere. Asterisk, the how is easy. The after is the problem. This will start a war. They will deny. They will call it a deep fake. They will send people to kill you. Your sister. Everyone you've ever met. You need a catalyst. A confession. How? He's scared. He's wounded. And he's proud. Use it. The world is listening. Commander, I've set the stage. The rest is theater. Good luck. Terminal will wipe in 60 seconds. The screen went black, then returned to the public library homepage. I pocketed the flash drive and the now decrypted silver laptop's hard drive. A small SSD I'd swapped in. I had my evidence, and I had a plan. A suicidal, reckless plan. I needed to get to Coleridge again, but not in a dark room. In the light. I spent the next day using every dirty trick I knew. I tapped into Grayson's frantic communications. The archivist had given me a backdoor. I learned Coleridge, against medical advice, was giving a press conference at Walter Reed, a show of strength, defiant. He would condemn the deep state, plot against him, and announce the formation of a special committee to root out corruption in the intelligence community. The irony was breathtaking. Walter Reed was a fortress, but I wasn't going to storm the gates. I was going to walk through them. Cyrus, via Sarah, had provided the final piece. The identity of a recently deceased janitorial services contractor, complete with digital work ID and fingerprint data lifted from a beer glass. At 5 a.m., dressed in a drab uniform, my hair tucked under a cap, my face subtly altered with makeup to look older, weary. I joined the shift change at the service entrance. The guard scanned my forged badge, barely glancing at me. I was invisible. Inside, I moved with the subdued purpose of a tired worker. I avoided the press corps setting up in the designated auditorium. I went to the electrical and HVAC control room for the building. Using codes the archivist had siphoned, I disabled the security feed for the service corridor behind the auditorium stage and tampered with the fire suppression system. Not to trigger it, but to make it show a minor fault, requiring a manual check. At 10 a.m., the press conference began. I watched on a maintenance monitor. Coleridge stood at a podium, his arm in a sling, face pale but voice strong, oozing gravitas and wounded righteousness. A hero under siege. He spoke of shadowy forces, of a brave FBI struggling with a rogue element me, of the need to heal the nation. I made my move. I walked down the service corridor, a clipboard in my hand, a toolbox at my side. A Secret Service agent stood at the door leading to the stage wings. I pointed to my clipboard, then to the ceiling, miming checking a valve. He glanced at his radio, heard the squawk about a system fault in the sector, and nodded me through with a bored wave. I was backstage. I could see Coleridge's profile, the sweat on his temple under the hot lights. I could see Grayson standing in the shadows offstage, his face a mask of stone, watching the crowd. This was it. I opened my toolbox, not for tools. I pulled out a small, powerful wireless router, a signal booster the archivist had configured. I plugged it into a backstage power outlet. A green light glowed. It was broadcasting a local, open Wi-Fi network with a single, downloadable file packet, a packet named Truth. Yexi, every phone, every laptop of every journalist in the room would get a pop-up notification, a gift from the archivist. Then, I took out the small, ruggedized Bluetooth speaker and the wireless mic from Hank's old gear, the one keyed to a frequency the archivist was now hijacking for a live, untraceable audio stream. I clipped the mic to my janitor's uniform. I stepped out of the shadows, into the wings, directly into Grayson's line of sight. His eyes snapped to me, shock, then cold fury. His hand went inside his jacket. I spoke into the mic. My voice, the commander's voice, clear and amplified, echoing through the backstage area and, thanks to the archivist, patched directly into the press pool audio feed. "Hello, Martin. Miss me." Grayson froze. On stage, Coleridge faltered, his speech stuttering as he heard my voice in his earpiece. The press corps stirred, confused, looking at their suddenly buzzing devices. "What is the meaning of this?" Coleridge boomed into his podium mic, trying to regain control. "The meaning, Senator," I said, walking slowly into the light at the edge of the stage, "is Project Sunrise. The meaning is the Dover Initiative. The meaning is the Council." Grayson drew his gun. "She's armed. She's the assassin!" he shouted to the Secret Service. Chaos erupted. Agents surged forward. The press, instead of ducking, were now staring at their screens, where the files from the silver laptop were autoplaying the memos, the transfers, the video of Coleridge and Grayson plotting. I kept walking toward the podium, my hands visible, empty. "My name is not Kelly Watson. My name is classified. I was a CIA operative. I was burned and left for dead in Caracas by Martin Grayson because I refused to murder civilians for a political lie. He then found me, wiped my memory, and made me an FBI puppet to help you, Senator, and your council steal a country. Lies. This is a deepfake, a cyber attack." Coleridge screamed, his composure shattered. "The files on your devices are real," I said, my voice calm over the din. "The quantum key was on the flash drive you kept taped in your desk, the one I took when you tried to have me killed." Grayson raised his gun, aiming at me, but a figure lunged from the other side of the stage, tackling Grayson. It was Hank. His face was bruised, but his eyes were clear. They grappled for the weapon. "He's in on it," Grayson roared. "He's a traitor." "The only traitor here is you, sir," Hank grunted, wrenching the gun away. He stood, panting, pointing Grayson's own weapon at him. "I've been recording you for months. Caracas was a war crime, and you covered it up. You used her. You used all of us." The room was in an uproar. Secret Service agents were torn, some moving to secure Coleridge, others staring at the damning evidence on their own phones. The press was live-streaming everything, the story exploding into the world in real time. I was at the podium now. I looked at Coleridge, at the terror in his eyes. I leaned into the mic. "The truth is out. The council is finished. The Dover Initiative is dead." I turned to the cameras. "My sister, Sarah Watson, is an innocent victim. She is under the protection of the only honest man I know. Any attempt on her life will be met with the release of even more damaging information. A bluff, but a necessary one." I looked at Hank. He gave me a small, grim nod. It was over. The avalanche had started. We just had to survive the slide. The fallout was swift and brutal. In the stunned silence of the auditorium, the director of the Secret Service himself ordered the detention of Senator Coleridge and Assistant Director Grayson for their own protection and pending investigation. The videos, the documents, the bank records, their authenticity was quickly verified by 100 competing news agencies. The story was too big, too detailed, too explosive to suppress. I was taken into custody too, of course, but it wasn't a dark hole. It was a bright, sterile conference room at FBI headquarters, with the Deputy Attorney General and the Inspector General on a secure video link. Hank was there, his hands bandaged, his story already given. He'd laid it all out. His guilt over Caracas, his years spent gathering evidence against Grayson, his desperate play to use my infiltration to bring down the council and expose the rot at the same time. My memories, patchy but returning, corroborated his tale. The archivist, anonymously, provided cryptographic proof that the files were unaltered. The scandal engulfed Washington. Coleridge resigned from the Senate before he could be expelled. He, Grayson, Rosalind Vance, Stephan, and a dozen others were indicted on charges ranging from conspiracy to defraud the United States to treason. The council was dismantled, its assets seized. Victor Cray, arrested at a private airfield trying to flee to Belarus, would spend the rest of his life in a supermax. The political shockwaves were immense. The Dover Initiative collapsed. Elections were re-evaluated. A major house cleaning began at the FBI and CIA. It wasn't a perfect victory. The powerful have a way of landing on their feet, but it was a reckoning. For me and Hank, there was no medal, no parade. We were given new identities again, a quiet, conditional immunity for our roles in the takedown, contingent on our disappearance. Our histories, both real and fabricated, were sealed. We were ghosts once more, but this time by choice. 3 months later, I stood on a windswept beach in Oregon, watching the gray Pacific crash against the shore. The cabin behind me was small, isolated, and paid for with funds the archivist had liberated from a council slush fund and deemed fair compensation. Sarah was inside, finally healing, physically and emotionally. She was angry and hurt and would be for a long time, but she was alive, and she was my sister. We were learning how to talk again, without lies between us. The screen door creaked. Hank walked out, holding 2 mugs of coffee. He handed me one. He had a new scar on his jawline, a souvenir from the fight with Grayson. We stood in silence, watching the gulls wheel. "What now, Commander?" he asked, a faint, familiar grin touching his lips. I took a sip of the bitter, hot coffee. The title didn't sting anymore. It was just a word, a call sign from a life that was finally, truly over. "Don't call me that," I said, but I was smiling too. He bumped his shoulder against mine. "Okay, Kelly, what now?" I looked out at the vast, empty horizon. There were no missions, no handlers, no lies to keep straight, just the sea, the sky, and the fragile, complicated truth of a life I could finally start building for myself. "Now," I said, taking his hand, the first real, uncalculated touch I'd allowed in years. "We see what the dawn looks like."